So what did that company do then? Well, what they did was, instead of looking at the emerging company opening outlets as a threat, they decided to actually buy off that company and buy all their outlets. So they bought those outlets. So instead of looking at those as threats, they converted those threats into an opportunity, because they realized that these densely populated areas have got big business. So a good business opportunity, and there was somebody who had outlets already there. This is how we can use the SWOT analysis to improve the performance of our organization. Now, let us go to the specifics that you can carry home. The specifics are these 4 points here. The specifics are these 4 points here. Yeah. So let's look at these 4 points. SWOT and performance management. Identify weaknesses which need to be addressed. So the SWOT can help us this way. Number 2, it takes us to the point that we emphasized in our last meeting. What was the point that we emphasized in our last meeting, if you remember well? We say that on this course, the examiner wants us to think in terms of KPIs and critical success factors. A knowledge and application of this is critical to improve performance. Point number 2, identify key aspects of performance, which are critical success factors, which need to be measured through KPIs. So we can use this. So our second point is the concept of critical success factors and KPIs. That's our second point there. So that's what we can carry from this model. We can talk about critical success factors and KPIs. The knowledge of SWOT can help us develop more effective KPIs. Performance management is about developing correct KPIs which you can monitor. And correct KPIs should start with properly identifying critical success factors. Determine information needs. Determine information needs. Yes, like the example of the debonaires we gave. If delivery time is an issue, if delivery time is a critical success factor, then you need to get the information, isn't it? I'm sure you agree with me that yes, we need the information. So the knowledge of this model can help us to determine the information needs. We're able now to identify what our information system should give us. It must give us information relating to how long do we take to deliver. But more importantly, it helps set targets. You can now come up with much more effective targets because you know your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So to me, the takeaway home, what we can take home here is that portion there. That portion is what we need. If you can carry that, remember how to bring out these points or how to apply them, then you would have said that, I think I'm okay with the model. Okay, friends. Okay. Let us move on to another one. Generic strategies. That little clip that we had. That little clip. Now, some of you may say, where is the clip, Mr. Perry? This is the clip that I'm referring to. This is the clip that I'm referring to. This clip, we got it from directly from your syllabus. So we have dealt with the issue of the SWOT. We have seen how SWOT can be used to assist in performance management process, isn't it? The other model or the other aspect that is mentioned there is PEST. There's a BCG, Balanced Scorecard. Now, according to my list there, what has come out is 547, not 547. The strategy, the generic strategies. So let us see how we link generic strategies to performance. Let us see how we link that. Let's see how we link that. So that is the item that we want to discuss now, so that all of us are aware of what we are trying to achieve. Within their strategic planning, firms need to identify competitive strategy they intend to use to achieve competitive advantage of their rivals. To be successful, firms either need to be cost leader or differentiate themselves from competitors. So, in order to improve their performance of the organization, you can choose cost leadership, being the lowest cost producer in the industry. Alternatively, we can be ahead of our competitors by differentiating ourselves. Now, these two that we have here, these are industry-wide strategies covering the whole industry. So these are what we call industry-wide strategies. However, we may also just want to focus on a particular market segment. And you can just choose a particular market segment and use a focus strategy. Just focus on a particular market segment. But once you move into a particular market segment, you may want to apply cost leadership or differentiation. Producing goods and services at a lower cost than any other producers in a given market segment. Providing a product or service whose characteristics differentiate from rivals in a specific market segment. So that's the concept of generic strategies, which I know that you have covered in your studies before, but here we are saying that we can use these strategies to improve the performance of our organizations. Okay. Now, let's come to performance management. Remember, your course or these models or strategies, it's not just about mentioning them. No. It's about performance management. Remember, it says evaluate how these can help us in the performance management process. Evaluate. So now, let us revisit, come back again to cost leadership. This strategy is based on keeping costs as low as possible. So from a performance management view, what are we talking about? Management information needs to report on how well this is being achieved by cost control and budget variances, production efficiency, cost reduction, and benchmarking. So to achieve the lowest cost leadership position, you need appropriate information systems in your performance management. And the first one here, it means that we must watch our cost control. So the performance management implication of this strategy is ensuring that there is cost control. And therefore we need the variance analysis report, which can show the breakdown. We need a performance management report which shows us how efficient we are. We need to implement cost reduction techniques. We need to implement cost reduction techniques using such philosophies as Kaizen. We also need to benchmark ourselves continuously against our competitors to ensure that we still remain the cost leader. What are the implications from performance management if you pursue differentiation? This strategy is based on offering customer greater value than competitors. So are you offering greater value than competitors? You need to have information. You need external information. You need customer feedback. You need KPIs to show that your offering is better than that of customers, of your competitors. What you offer is better than what customers. So you need that feedback. So how do you get that feedback? In your performance information management system. Another implication, you need to identify the key features which form the basis of differentiation. In other words, what are the critical success factors? On what are we differentiating ourselves? On what should we be differentiating ourselves? In other words, what are the critical success factors? And then monitor performance to ensure high standards are maintained. So what is it that separates us from our competitors? Oh, we see the delivery. Or you see after sales support. So you identify that actually it's after sales support. So if after sales support is what differentiates you, you want then to get the feedback. How are we doing? Now remember, in our class last week, we spoke about financial and non-financial information. Here's a point for you. Key features which differentiate us from our competitors in this strategy are often non-financial, such as quality and the customer service. So then, the implication of pursuing this strategy from performance management is that we need an information management system or a performance management system which does not only report financial but also non-financial. So entities need non-financial performance indicators in order to measure them. So we need appropriate KPIs if we are pursuing this strategy. We need appropriate KPIs, and these KPIs are non-financial in nature. So these are the implications of generic strategies for performance management. And this is sort of thinking that we want you to take to the exam. That's the sort of thinking we want you to take to the exam. Okay, remember, generic strategies actually was recently added as a topic. What we need are these points mentioned here. Let's move, friends. Let's move. We come to the next one. What does 5 forces? Now I know from your strategic management. Now I'm aware from the strategic management studies that what does 5 forces is not new to you. You have covered it. And normally, when we talk about what does 5 forces in strategic management, again, it's when you are doing your strategic analysis, you want to understand your environment. And you want to narrow down to the industry environment. You want to narrow down to the industry environment. Now, when you narrow down to the industry environment, the industry is very important. Why? You know, the profit that you make as an organization, or in other words, your financial performance in the organization is going to be affected by what is happening in the industry. So you may fail to achieve your objectives as a company. You may fail to achieve your goals, or you may actually achieve them. And it could be due to industry factors. So Porter's 5 forces is very important because it helps understand what is happening in the industry. The level of profits which can be sustained in an industry is determined by 5 key forces. Because see, if the industry is becoming less and less profitable, there's no way as an organization you perform well. That's where we're coming from. So we've got the issue here of the new entrants, and the new entrants normally are determined by the level of barriers to entry. Then there's a threat of substitutes. There's a bargaining power of consumers, bargaining power of suppliers, and rivalry. Okay. So we need to monitor these. In evaluating the performance of the company, we need to understand the impact of these forces. Now again, let us be exam relevant. Let's go to your exam. In your examination, what you want is how do these forces impact on performance management? That's what we want. Not just describing the forces, no. Describing the forces is not our issue, but picking a few points that help us understand the impact of 5 forces on performance. Strength of forces could affect organizations' profitability. So our profitability, or what we call our financial performance as an organization, you may find that we are not achieving all our financial goals. We're not achieving all our financial goals. What could be the problem? Because of the forces in the industry. Competitive environment is continuously changing. If changes in one or more of the forces are likely to affect performance, we need a performance metric which allows managers to assess the impact of the change. Now, here we pick the issue of the KPI. From a performance management point of view, you may need a KPI for each one of these. You may need a KPI for each one of these so that as an organization, we can monitor. Could help define critical success factors or KPIs, which are important to measure. Performance management is about critical success factors. It's about KPIs. And now we're arguing that Porter's 5 forces can just lead us to appropriate critical success factors and the KPIs. Good. Any examples of KPIs in this area? Any examples of KPIs in this area? Threat of substitutes. Threats of substitutes. What KPI can you use to monitor the threat of substitutes? Please, can you just key in your answer on the chat? Can you key in your answer on the chat? Share with me. Share with me. You can pick any of these and just indicate. Let's just call the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Can just number 1, you give us an example of the KPI. Just key them in so that I can read them out. Key them in, please. Pick any. If you want to pick the bargaining power of consumers, bargaining power of suppliers, just say number 4 is a KPI. Number 5, can you please do that? So that I know that you are able to develop a KPI for each one of these forces. And then we can monitor. Let me check on the charts. I don't have anything on the charts as yet. Please, can you have your feedback on the charts? Okay, let's go. I've got the first one here. Number 4, market share. Bargaining power of consumers, switching costs. Number of substitute products in the market. Excellent. Okay. Market share of substitutes. Okay. Good. Yeah. And the performance of substitutes. The price of the substitutes. Yeah, the price of the substitute. Because you see, if you've got your own product and the substitute is cheaper, then there's a problem. Okay. For number 4, somebody says number of suppliers. Ah, that's very good. Number 1, revenue from patented products. That's very good. Yeah, threat of new entrants, the percentage of revenue from patented products. That's very good. All right, excellent. You have done well. I've given ticks. All of you. You have done well. You guys are switched on for the exam. I'm very encouraged with the feedback. I think that's what you'll be doing today, getting a feedback. Yeah, good. Thank you very much for all the responses. You are switched on. You are ready for the exam. We're going to have a good share of the pass rate, of the global pass rate, this sitting from the African centers. Potential issues with the 5 forces. We also must be able to comment on the potential issues. An organization's profitability could be determined by its own competencies and capabilities. Okay, not just the overall industry profitability. So we need to be careful. We should not put the blame on the industry all the time. No, the industry is going down. No. If you have got a competent and capable manpower, you can even attract additional customers. We can drive the market. A problem of market definition. Yeah, so what do you mean by the market? Yeah, are we defining markets widely or narrowly? Yeah. Assumes competition between firms, but there may be cooperation as well. So it's possible that actually there's some form of cooperation. Firms are not fighting. There's no rivalry, they say. Good, you guys. We've done a good job with our item here. We are good to go. Let's come to the BCG. BCG matrix. Let's talk about the BCG and the performance management implications. Good. Here we go. What is the BCG all about? Remember, we're looking at improving performance of organizations. We are looking at helping organizations meet their goals. That's what we are talking about. We're talking about helping organizations meeting their objectives. And now we're looking at a model, strategic management models that can help in this process. And this time around now, we are looking at the concept of the BCG. The BCG is a very powerful tool that we use in strategy to understand how balanced the portfolio of our products is. The portfolio of our products, how balanced is it? So we look at 2 points, look at the market growth and the relative market share. Is the market growing or not? So the market can be growing at a low pace or at a fast pace. So the markets that you are in, where are they? And what's your relative market share in relation to number 1? In relation to the largest player, where are you? Okay. So we can use this to evaluate whether we've got a balanced portfolio of products. So we can ask ourselves, do we have a balanced portfolio of products? So that is the item. Or it may not be products, but what are the businesses that we have within our group? We can use it to evaluate the portfolio of the businesses that we have. And we've got this interesting terminology here. You may find that some products or business portfolios are stars, which are occupying that segment, high growth, and also high relative market share. Question marks. We are in a high growth market. Unfortunately, we've got a low market share. So how can we move this side? Cash cow, the best position ever. because we are now in a low market. So the market that we are in is not growing anymore. It's mature market. However, we've got a high relative market share. This is a very powerful position because it's got the best cash flow generating potential, isn't it? And money from here is what goes there. Money from there is what goes there. So our money is going there and our money is going there. So that this can go there. And in the future, we know that this is what will come and occupy this position. Unfortunately, we have also products which may exhibit these features here, which we may decide to keep or do away with. So the Bcg matrix encourages management to look at portfolio of products or strategic business units as a whole, rather than simply assessing the needs and performance of each one independently. That's the point here. This model helps us to look at the whole complement of our service offering or product offering and see whether we're balanced or not. Let's come to performance. Performance measures chosen should reflect the position in the grid. So this then helps us to develop appropriate KPIs. This helps us then with KPIs, and now KPIs, that's our language. The performance measures or KPI should reflect where we are. What do we mean by that? That the positionings will help us come up with correct KPI. Stars and question marks. Stars and question marks. These two are in a high growth market. They're in a high growth market. That's where they are. These two should focus on revenue growth or market share growth. What of the cash cow here, which is in low growth? The cash cows should focus more on cost control. On cost control. So the positioning must tell us what to do. Now, at this point, we want to marry two items. We want to demonstrate what has happened in our exam, where the examiner has combined the Bcg matrix with the concept of management styles. The examiner has combined the Bcg with the concept of management styles. Now, the concept of management styles is one which has come on this paper a number of times, and it comes from HRM. It comes from HRM. So I'll digress a little bit here so that I remind you of your concept of management styles. And then we're going to marry it with this to see which is an appropriate management style. Now I'm going to remind you, there's nothing to panic about. We're revising for the exam. So I'm going to remind you of what we are talking about here. So let me just switch to my HR, and I pick the concept of the management style and share the concept of management style. Okay, I need to mute somebody here. So friends, this is the concept of the management style. This concept is to what extent do we use budget information to evaluate the performance of our managers. To what extent do we use budget information or financial information to evaluate the performance of our managers? Let's go. We've got 3 styles, and these styles have been examined a number of times. These styles have been examined a number of times. The budget constraint style. In budget constraint style, what do? This is where we evaluate the performance of our managers mainly by using accounting information. Mainly by using accounting information or budgets. We are so strict with budgets here. You are not allowed to overspend, no. You are not allowed at all to overspend. We won't agree with you in any way. That is the way we evaluate our managers. So budget constraint may be appropriate in a business with the cash flow problems or mature business where management have to focus on cost control. So when you come to BCG then, where do we use this approach? When you look at the Bcg analysis, when do we use this approach? When you look at the low growth market, yes, somebody has indicated there, in low growth markets, if you look at low growth markets, this would be an appropriate approach. Those mature markets, we use a budget constraint style. What of profit conscious? Here, we recognize that you are operating in a market which is growing, and we can't afford to withhold resources from you. We can even allow you to overspend in the short run if this will lead to long-term effectiveness or profitability. So this is an approach which says that if we're operating in a high growth market, markets that are growing, you cannot afford to withhold resources from such management. So these managers, we evaluate them looking at long-term effectiveness. May be more appropriate for a business in growth phase, where long-term performance objectives are more important than short-term profitability. So where can we use this? Yes, in those high growth markets. High growth markets, and this is where the stars are found. And this also is where we've got the question marks. This is where we've got the question marks or problem child. So this is how we can now marry management styles and KPI. So the KPIs here should reflect the long-term effectiveness. Whilst here variance analysis to work, the cost variance analysis here, no. Non-accounting style can often be appropriate for public sector or not for profit organizations where financial parameters are less important than non-financial ones, or those departments or responsibility centers where non-financial objectives are more important, like the safety departments. Okay. Where do you think we can apply the non-accounting style in the BCG? Where would you apply non-accounting style in those BCG quadrants? Okay, somebody has posted. Let me see the post here. Okay, no, it's an earlier post. So I'm looking for another post. I'm looking for another post. Okay, I've got a post here. Yeah, somebody says dog. Yeah, we may have to keep a dog for other reasons. For instance, maybe just out of the service, support to the community, or because of the related business interests. Yeah, excellent. So this is how we can marry the two. I hope we have seen, and also we've had an opportunity to discuss these management styles. For some reason, the examiner wants us to be very familiar with these management styles. So on HRM, a component in our exam which we have seen is the concept of a management style. So we must know and apply the concept of management style. Okay. Good. We are now getting back. We are now getting back to our models again so that we can close that story. We can close that story and look at the other items. So that we look at other items relevant to our exam. Okay, so that is the issue there. Are there any potential issues? Yes, yes, yes. You must mention potential issues, such as defining the market can be difficult again. Yeah. You know, this issue of defining the market, I normally give students an example from the accountancy training. And I don't know what's happening in your market, but you can ask the question, is the market for accountancy training growing? Or what is the rate of growth? How would you assess the rate of growth in the training, accountancy training market? Now, the question there is, Mr. P, which market are you talking about? That's what we're talking about here. I could be talking about technician market, diploma market, professional accounting, degree program, academic programs. So when you're talking about, like you say, well, the market is growing. Which market? So that comes into any sort of analysis when you're talking about the market. Classification is too simplistic. Classification is too simplistic. It's just high and low. You mean there's no medium? Another aspect is how many firms have what we call a high market share? A high market share, a high relative market share. How many companies qualify to have what we call high relative market share? From your analysis, high relative market share. Can we have a comment from the group? Who qualifies to have what we call a high relative market share? I'm waiting from the group now. When you are ranking companies and want to test their market share. Okay, let me check the response here. All right. There's Daniel here. Daniel says just one. And who is that one, Daniel? You have said just one. And who is that one? Who qualifies? The one with the highest percentage. The one with the highest percentage. In other words, the market leader. Now you may find that these two are very close to each other. One has got 38, another one has got 36. But the one with 38%, we say has got high relative market share. The one with 36, low market share. No, that's too simplistic. That's too simplistic. assumes high growth represents an attractive industry, but may not be the case for a firm with limited capital available. So it's like, according to the model, we must all vie for high growth markets. High growth markets. But even if you found yourself in a high growth market and you have no money, what happens? Relationship between products, e.g., if you divest a dog, could that have an impact on sales of other products? So the decisions that you are going to make, for instance, a possible decision of divesting a dog, you need to be very, very careful because of the impact that this may leave for you. So the decisions that you are going to make from this analysis, after you finish analysis, think about the impact. Think about the impact. Okay. Good. Like the group is switched on, You are ready for your exam. That's what I can tell here. So we spoke about benchmarking last week. That is why I've taken that one out, because we spoke about the types of benchmarking. So we have looked at some of these aspects here, and we continue to look at some as we proceed with our analysis. Where are we proceeding to here now? Well, from here, we want to proceed to the next item. And the next item that we want to talk about here is the environment. We want to talk about the environment. And we want to focus on some of the items that we have seen on our exams in terms of the environment. So what are some of these items that we have seen? Area 5 of our syllabus says environmental, social, and governance factors. Environmental, social, and governance factors. Let us do a further breakdown. Discuss the ways in which stakeholder groups operate and how they influence an organization and its performance measurement and performance management, e.g., using that common model here, Mendel's matrix. Mendel's matrix. Now, some of you may say, yeah, we have seen questions in the recent exam talking about stakeholder groups. And the questions have been talking about what KPIs can we use to monitor these groups? What KPIs can we use to monitor these groups? Number 2, discuss the social, ethical issues that may impact on strategy formulation. Nowadays, it's not just about I want to invest, I'll go further to invest, I'll start a business. No. There's social issues. There's ethical issues. And these subsequently affect the business performance. Certain social issues are so powerful. Some ethical considerations are so important and critical that they can even affect the achievement of objectives. Wherever you are today in the world, there's the issue of the physical environment. So discuss, evaluate, and apply environmental management accounting techniques using life cycle costing and also input-output analysis and activity-based costing. So we've got these items here within the environment. So we want to zero in on these particular items. Now let me just check something here. Okay. All right, so we're taking a break at 11. I just wanted to make sure what time we're taking a break. So our comfort break is 11 hours. Okay, that's okay. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's discuss these items, friends. Let's discuss these items so that should the examiner ask us, we have something to relate to. Discuss the ways in which stakeholder groups operate and how they influence an organization and its performance measurement and performance management. So let's give you a quick reminder here. Let's give you a quick reminder here of what we're talking about. Let's give you a quick reminder of what we're talking about here. Okay, so let's go. Let's give you a reminder of what we're talking about here. Stakeholders, 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 stakeholders. Stakeholders are critical to performance measurement and management. Why? A quick reminder. The relationship between, so who are stakeholders, first of all? These are groups or individuals who have an interest in the strategy and activities of an organization. So that's the first point about our stakeholders. They have an interest in the strategy and activities of an organization. A reminder, there's a nice reminder there. The reminder is the relationship between a stakeholder or stakeholders and the organization is not one way, it's two way. Stakeholders can influence an organization's performance. But an organization's performance also affects the stakeholders. So it's a two relationship. But maybe selfishly, as performance managers, what we want to realize is that our performance can be affected by the stakeholders. So we are people who help organizations come up with performance measurement and management systems. And so what we want organizations to understand is that just like industry profitability can affect performance of the company, we're also interested, or we're also keen to mention that stakeholders also can affect the performance of our organization. So the question is, how important is stakeholder analysis then? Recognize that different stakeholders have different views of what constitutes good performance to see where the issue is. So from one group of stakeholders, it could be that you are performing well, to another group you're not performing well. Sometimes what stakeholders want is different to what the mission suggests. This can be a particular problem when such a stakeholder is a key player. So good performance or not may be considered from the viewpoint of a given stakeholder. So then, what can help us come up with performance indicators or KPIs or strategies for managing a particular stakeholder? The answer is, we may have to do a stakeholder mapping. A stakeholder mapping can help us. Stakeholders' interests are likely to conflict. Stakeholder mapping helps the organization to establish its priorities and manage relationships with various stakeholders. And that's how powerful this model is, the model that we call main-loss model. So main-loss model or matrix is very important because it helps us to identify priorities, but also it helps us to identify an action plan. An action plan. Let's look at action plans. If a stakeholder is in this quadrant, his level of interest in what we do is low, and his power and also unfortunately is low. We are saying apply minimal effort. In other words, we would not be surprised to find that a particular organization has no what? Has no KPI. So if there's no KPI for somebody who's occupying this position, we are saying, that shouldn't worry us. Yeah, because it says minimal effort. We contrast that with this position here. If somebody in that position, this one is important, and we call him a key player. This one is a key player. And to this one, to this stakeholder, whatever strategy you want to pursue must be acceptable, otherwise you block it or you frustrate it. So we need that, we expect that there will be effective KPIs developed for this quadrant. Then from there, we've got somebody who can easily cross over to here. And that is this position. The only issue is that the level of interest is low. The only issue is that the level of interest is low here, low levels of interest. But in terms of power, which matters, which is even difficult to get, this stakeholder already has a high power here. So moving here to there can be very easy. So what should we do? Keep satisfied. Treat with care, often passive, but capable of crossing over to segment D. Then we've got a quadrant for pressure groups, NGOs, opposition political parties, who are here. Their interest is very, very high. They're extremely vocal. The only problem is what they lack is. So how do they work? Here's how they work. We must keep them informed all the time so they don't make too much noise. Little direct influence, but may influence more powerful stakeholders. That's what the issue is. They may influence more powerful stakeholders. So certainly, the KPIs that we're going to develop must be in relation to the level of power and influence. The level of power and influence. Okay, so from there, what we have all these types of stakeholders: employees and management, consumer groups, shareholders, suppliers, and government. So these are the different types of the stakeholders that we have and whom we must be able to grade. Okay. Because they have an impact on our organization. They influence what an organization does. we come to the aspect of social responsibility. Let us discuss the concept of social responsibility. Wherever we are today, good performance includes this area. And we've just covered the fact that there are various stakeholders, and good performance depends on which stakeholder you are. So the matter of social responsibility is very much a component of good performance today. So what can we say corporate social responsibility is all about? What's the focus? An organization's obligation to maximize positive stakeholder benefits while minimizing the negative effects. So we want to pay attention to the social needs that the communities that we operate in have. Should businesses actively practice social responsibility? Whilst the quick answer is yes, divergent views exist, but many feel that an organization, a corporate body, can fix social challenges that exist in communities. And the thinking is that especially big businesses have got the resources to even take care of the challenges of inequalities. So organizations demonstrate their corporate social responsibilities in different ways: charitable donations, pollution control, or participation in community activities and support. And actually, this is an expectation today of how a corporate social responsibility package would look like. So that is why we have non-financial objectives. Some people, of course, may argue that companies already discharge their responsibilities by contributing towards tax, but that's not enough, no. If you take this view, remember there's pressure groups. There's your own employees who may put pressure on you. And sometimes the demand may be backed by legislation. Environmental screening is very important for many projects that we carry out today. Sustainability in the use of resources and ecological concerns, all these, when you put them together, just reinforce the concept that CSR is very important today. Sustainability actually of your business operations or the future is fairly linked to your level of corporate social responsibility. And before we take a break, let's just discuss this area. Importance of sustainability. Let's revisit our concept of financial and non-financial performance indicators. Financial and non-financial. What is one of the weaknesses of financial indicators or financial KPIs? What is one of the limitations? We normally argue in terms of short-termism. Remember that expression? But many financial KPIs focus on short-term benefits. That is one of the problems that we have. They are historical. They look at the past. Somebody says financial KPIs, and they don't tell us, or they don't directly support the concept of sustainability or the future of the organization. And that is why we need non-financial performance indicators, which bring in the long-term perspective or sustainability. So good performance is not about just making profit this year. It's not just about the profitability in the current year. The question is long term. Are our business operations sustainable? So strategic decision makers need to consider long-term issues as well as short-term ones. We need a balance. If they focus too much on short-term issues, this could undermine an organization's long-term reputation and prospects. So when we're talking about helping companies to improve their performance, we're not just talking about short-term performance, we're talking about also long-term. And that is why in our performance reporting systems today, we need to embrace what is called what? Triple bottom line. So we need to ensure that in our reporting systems, we're able to report or to assess the economic prosperity. And that's what you call the profit. Environmental quality, that's what we call the planet. Social equity, that's what we call the people. So in a good reporting today, we must report on profitability. Were we profitable? What was our interaction with our physical environment? What support did we give the people? And good performance really entails that we do well in these areas. As usual, like we have seen, we come back to the concept. What does this mean for performance management? Organizations need to pay great attention to long-term social, environmental, and economic impact they have on society, and not just on short-term financial performance. Further implication, needs to be reflected in the range of performance measures, not just short-term financial performance measures. We also need to look at the long-term performance measures. That is the implication of sustainability on our performance measurement system and performance management system. That's the implication. Another item that we can share upfront here, this is where we said we must embrace the concept of integrated reporting. Remember, in integrated reporting, we want to go beyond the traditional capital. We also want to look at other types of capital. And also, integrated reporting emphasizes or focuses on the concept of long-term sustainability. We need to demonstrate long-term sustainability in our reporting system. This expression, sustainability, has just come on our syllabus, and those who took exam last sitting, I think some came across on their papers, there were questions on sustainability. Yes, the expression has just come, but the thinking or the implications are what you already know, isn't it? Another area specifically mentioned is about ethics. Ethical considerations are important today in business. Standards of behavior in the conduct. So how do we conduct our business? So it's not just the profit at all costs. It's not profit at all costs. No. We must have values that will guide us in profit generation, isn't it? We need to abide by what we call good or acceptable business conduct. A socially and environmentally ethical approach can help an organization to sustain competitive position in the long run. So if you are ethical in what you do, paying due attention to social and environmental issues, that will help too in sustaining good performance. What are some of the areas of ethical issues? How do you market your products? In terms of quality, in terms of the safety of your products, what do you say? What do you say in your advertising messages? How do you promote your products? So that is one area. What of when it comes to manufacturing? What are your practices? What are your practices? Vis-a-vis working conditions, health and safety, what's your record? And there's a much more sensitive issue called what? Child labor. What of the inherent danger of some of the products? How do you handle that? What of the issue of animal testing? Testing your products on animals. How do we handle that? These are practices in manufacturing that can bring questions on your ethical position. Another area is the purchasing and procurement. We know these are hot areas, isn't it? Because that's where money is. So what is our conduct in this area? In terms of human rights and working practices at supplier firms. Do you just buy from anyone, even those with a poor record of human rights and working conditions? You, as long as they can deliver the inputs, you don't care who you deal with? Fair contract terms and the conditions with suppliers, fair trade principles when you deal with them. How do you deal with the suppliers? Do you ever get involved in this vice? Which we call bribery? We can go on and on mentioning areas which could bring about ethical conflicts. So our syllabus says that business ethics are part of good performance management and long-term sustainability of your businesses. These are some of the points that we can share at this point. Well, you've been sitting for a while. We're going to take a break. We'll take a break now. It's 11:10. The break is 15 minutes. So at 11:25, you can come back. I won't log off. I'll just mute my mic. That's all. Okay. 11:25, we are back with our consideration.